I've been dying to show you a color correction command here in Photoshop called levels. And, I wanted to get into non-destructive color correction as well, sort of in combination with showing you levels, but, I think that might be a bit too much. I might be hitting you with too much all at once. So we'll talk about the non-destructive color correction in just a little bit, but until then, let's talk about this command called levels. Now, before we get into levels, I want to make sure of a couple of things. First of all, make sure that you still have your histogram palette open. I want to show you something very cool in relation to your histogram. The other thing that I'll have you do is hit the F key on your keyboard so that we can move our photo around, because the levels dialog box is actually kind of big. And what I'm going to do is sort of shift my photo over towards the left-hand side of my screen. I'm just holding down the space bar there to move that over. All right, something like that. Okay, levels. Let's head up to our image menu and then down to adjustments, and then of course look for levels. There's your keyboard shortcut, Command L or Control L on the Windows side. Go ahead and pop open your levels dialog box. All right, now at first glance things are getting a little bit more complicated in terms of our dialog boxes here, but lo and behold, inside our levels dialog box, we have a histogram. In fact, we have the exact same histogram inside the levels dialog box that you and I see back inside the histogram panel or the histogram palette down in the background. So it's exactly the same thing. Now, here's what I want to do, though, is I want to start shifting the colors inside my photo. Again, my photo of this dirt road is looking really washed out, so essentially what I want to do is I want to set my black point, as it's referred to, and I also want to set my white point. Remember, way back when, Photoshop automatically set our white and black points for us when we used the auto commands, right? And that little experiment that you and I did with those gray boxes, this is exactly what I'm talking about. So essentially what I want to do is I want to try and shift, or I want to try and clip some of my pixels and force them into the darker areas of my photo. So this is what I'm going to do here. On the left-hand side, sort of the bottom left side of the histogram that appears inside the levels palette, we have a black arrow. And then over towards the right, we have a white arrow. And in the middle, we have a gray arrow. So we have black, we have white, or we have shadows and highlights, and also midtones, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my black arrow, and I'm going to drag him into the histogram, way over into the histogram this way, right? Now, a whole bunch of things happen. Let me try and slow things down here a little bit. What's happened here is I've basically set any pixels from this point in my histogram and any that appear towards the left. So all of the pixels from the black arrow to the left, I want them to be pure black. So what I've done is I've remapped them, if you will. I've shifted them, just like we shifted 75% gray to 100% black, right? And the other thing that's happened as well is check out the histogram palette. This is why I wanted you to keep your histogram palette open, by the way, is in the background of the histogram palette almost, you can see the original histogram there in gray, and then overlaid on top, you can see the new histogram. So what I've done here is I've just shifted a whole bunch of pixels down towards the left side of the histogram, creating this sort of this peak on the graph, right? Okay, let's do the same with the white point. So what I'll do is I'll grab my white arrow and I'll push him towards the left into the histogram, something like this. And of course, what I'm doing there now is I'm setting the white point. So what I've done here is I've set any pixels that appear on this point on the graph or at this point inside my image, and any that appear from this point and to the right all now become pure white, right? So again, what we've done here is we've done a color shift. We've pushed the pixels. We've remapped the color, if you will. Now, ideally in the real world, what you would do is you would take your white slider and bring them into the foothills of your histogram on the right-hand side, and same with the dark side, same with your black point. Bring them into the foothills of the histogram as well. And because I have my preview checkbox turned on inside the levels dialog box, you can see my image looks 10 times better. Again, remember earlier I said you'll be amazed at what we can actually do with this image. Look at all the color we resurrected from the dead out of this image. image, right? And again, if you want that before and after look, just click on your preview checkbox there. The colors were there. They were just all washed out. We needed to pull them back out. We needed to draw them back out, right? So anyway, what we've done is we've remapped the white and the black points inside our image. We have a new histogram that's happening inside the histogram palette you can see there. Now, there's a few other things that I want to show you as well in regards to the levels dialog box. So we'll continue this discussion on the levels dialog box, the levels command, in the next exercise.